Welcome back to the Suck My DFS podcast presented by the Game House. Braxton and Will here with the coach, Will Shearholtz. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm pretty downtrodden after the results of week 6.
It's a tough week. Just a tough week.
It was a brutal week for me, seasonal and daily. Probably the worst week so far this season because I've had this nice balance. Either I've cashed everywhere and I've won seasonal, or I had one or the other, and that did not happen. 6 weeks in, I had the hopefully this is the lowest point of the season for me, Will.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of introductory topics because I'm just so frustrated. I just want to get your opinion of this past weekend. Maybe what you thought of the Kansas City New England game, despite it not being on the main slate for us to use. The big game, Cincinnati Pittsburgh for divisional status, and then you were texting me. The Cowboys somehow they
rolled them. Jacksonville looked terrible.
They looked awful.
They looked like they forgot how to defend, which was crazy. But Dak just did whatever he wanted offensively. He ran the ball, he threw the ball. Zeke had a big day.
Career high rushing for Dak, 86 yards or something.
I don't know.
What about?
I didn't think that was going to happen.
What about the master, Cole Beasley? Apparently,
11 targets,
2 touchdowns.
That's
I don't know what
crazy.
to do. Cole Beasley's not a factor at all. Now he's probably going to be one of the biggest pickups of the weekend. And I mean, if we're on the Cowboys game, looking back, we should have given it a little bit more thought to the Cowboys side. I think you were on the defense the whole week, so I got to give you that. But this might be the worst matchup for the Jaguars because what they like to do, they like to body your receivers. They like to play teams who are spread and perceived to be a little bit softer. That doesn't really affect Dallas. They play inside the box and they dominated. Zeke didn't have a gigantic day. I think he had 100 yards and a touchdown, but man, they dominated them out of the slot. When Dak got moving, it was pretty much game over. 2 brutal back-to-back weeks for the Jags on the road.
The only reason that Zeke really didn't have a big day is because Dak did on the ground. They ran
Zeke
the zone
still had 100 yards and a touchdown.
Still had 100 yards. So, I mean, think about that. They almost ran for 200 yards between the two of them. Which,
oh, my God.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Especially against the Jags. And then on the other side, I mean, you said that you've been talking about Dallas defense all week, but I did not think they would stop the Jaguars that way. Or maybe Bortles stopped him, got in his own way. I don't know what's happened to him. These last 2 weeks, you're right, he's looked like he's forgotten how to play football.
They're just so pass-happy without Fournette. It's not like Yeldon was doing anything great.
Special, yeah.
He wasn't doing anything special against Dallas, but at least try to feed them and try to get something going offensively. But they'd run the ball on first down, then be second and long and throw the ball twice and go 3 and out.
And that's it. And if it wasn't happening, Blake Bortles was handing the ball back to Jacksonville. I don't want to spend any time talking about the Bears-Dolphins game because I'm going to have a rant of epic proportions on Thursday. The last 2 weeks we haven't had any rants, and that's been nice. But that streak is going to snap this weekend, this Thursday for sure. The other game I want to get your thoughts on was Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. The biggest divisional game of the week. I felt it all week. I'm like, you know what? Cincinnati's going to underwhelm, and they played better than I thought.
They played well.
They just could not,
close the door.
I mean, it's pretty hard to defend the Steelers when Antonio Brown gets an illegal pick for the win.
Yes.
Now, they were kicking a field goal, I believe, for the win anyways, but that just...
But still.
Exactly.
Boswell's had troubles this year, so you never know what would happen.
That's also true. So I'm even though they lost, I came away kind of impressed with Cincinnati.
I thought it was a great football game, an entertaining one to watch. I was happy that one was on TV here.
Thank God.
Yeah. But it was a back and forth game. Nobody really controlled it all the way through, and a great finish, obviously, with the 2 scores late, one from Cincinnati, one from Pittsburgh to seal it off. But it's a good game for both sides.
Exactly.
They're both contenders.
And 3 of the 4 AFC North teams showed up to play. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, but not so much Cleveland. But, hey, we don't have that much time to go on all the games. It's not what we do here. Before we move into movers and shakers, Will, we have to get to our top 5 takeaways of Week 6. So do you want to kick us off with your number 5?
I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Oakland Raiders. You were 100% right about Derek Carr after that terrible effort against the Seattle Seahawks. I know it was overseas, Tough place to play. It's tough for both, but it's tough for both teams. It's not just tough for Oakland. Derek Carr was terrible. And the Raiders are absolutely crazy. They're shopping Amari Cooper, and they want a first-round pick.
This is what I talked about 2 weeks ago. Doesn't everything make sense with the way Gruden's handled the offseason if you don't think Derek Carr's the quarterback?
It does.
Everything, Khalil Mack gone. The Amari Cooper trade rumors, gone. I mean, when you get a 10-year deal, you can do whatever you want if you're Gruden, but I didn't think Carr was that bad, and I don't think he's not calling suboptimal plays because it helps his credibility if he wins now,
Yeah.
But man, they're truly not trying to do any favors for Carr because I don't think he's their guy.
What do you think Oakland can get realistically for Amari Cooper? I heard somebody on the radio talking about a second rounder. I wouldn't give a second rounder for him. I'd give a third rounder.
Here's the difference. Amari Cooper has a really good college pedigree at Alabama. And here's the other thing. He's only 24, and it's his fourth year in the NFL. Receivers typically peak 25, 26, 27 are their golden years. This guy's got 4 years of experience, and he's 24. That's the reason I think they can get a first-round pick, maybe. But, I mean, what team is realistic? What team do you even think is a fit off the top of your head?
I mean, one that came to my head, but that wouldn't give him a first-rounder for him, like the Chargers. I could see – because here's the thing about the Chargers.
Does Andy Reid go all in and just add Amari Cooper to the mix with that receiving core? No. The Chargers, I don't think they need it. If I was to name a team that needed receiver help, like, what about Cleveland now?
Cleveland does need receiver help, but I don't know. I just don't know like what quarterback really makes Amari Cooper that much more relevant. All of the quarterbacks have good receiving cores or like decent ones.
The Colts.
Yeah, but they won't do that.
No,
can't give up a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. That would screw them for the future.
Yes, I mean that. Just a side note, but hey, you know what? It took me a while to come around to that conclusion, but at least we made it. My number 5 takeaway is a DFS takeaway. The pay lines are up, and that's going to continue. 120, 25 points I don't think is enough anymore. We're going to have to plan for 2.5x because, Will, in case you didn't know, scoring is up. And if real-life scoring is up, fantasy scoring can only go up, unless we see some kind of defensive renaissance where they're scoring touchdowns every week. But we're not.
It's an offensive league.
So the pay lines are up, so we're going to have to build our lineups around going 2.5x at each position and not 2x. So, Will, I'm considering, I've never done this before, but literally just going stars and scrubs this weekend with DFS. Right now I've got a lineup with Gurley, Kamara, and Thielen on it. Which then Gurley's north of 10K. So right now here's what that lineup looks like. It's Baker Mayfield against the Bucks.
That's a good pick.
Gurley, Kamara, Thielen. Here's the drop off. Jermaine Kearse, who's 5K, had a good day, but I have no idea if he can duplicate the targets. And then Marquise Goodwin at 5,500. I really will buy the Monday night performance.
Sure,
but
why not?
2 basement wide receivers. Njoku at tight end because the Bucs have been awful against tight ends. Pair with Mayfield. Flex, I think, is Frank Gore, 5,600 against the awful Lions. And then the Colts defense against possibly the Nate Peterman Bills.
I don't hate it. It's going to be the Nate Peterman Bills because Josh Allen's out 2 to 3 weeks. Just read it.
Thank the Lord. That makes my defensive selection way easier. Actually, I think that lineup might be $100 or $2 over the line because I was playing around like, God, can I get Goodwin? But I really want the Colts defense and that difference. So I don't think that's the exact lineup, but that's one player off from what the lineup looks like right now. Yeah, I don't hate it either, but
I don't hate it.
We will see. Let's get into movers and shakers, though. Will, any quarterbacks moving up, moving down in your mind after this performance?
This guy I've been big on for a couple weeks now, but how do I not have Jameis moving up? I mean,
he did everything he could.
Throws for about 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have a couple picks, but man, they were within 5 yards of winning that game. If Deshaun Jackson catches the pitch, he's in the end zone and they win that game.
How much do you love that play?
I love it. 100% love it.
I've really never seen anything like that. Like, we've seen the laterals and stuff on kick returns, but the scripted quarterback draw, and then it was completely by design because I think it was Evans or Humphries who came like literally from the opposite slot, like circled around behind Jameis, but the initial throw was bad, and then the tip, and then Evans tried to throw it to Jackson. I love the play. Yeah. Whoever came up with that play, good for them because I loved it. And if Jackson can field it cleanly, I don't know if someone's going to keep him out of the end zone. He looked like he had a pretty clear path.
I think so.
But no, Jameis moving up. Anyone moving down?
I don't have anyone.
Oh, good, because I've got a couple guys moving down. The aforementioned Derek Carr.
Oh, sure.
Now he's got his own set of injuries that he's dealing with, or at least a nagging injury. And then Alex Smith, man. How far has he fallen? Not because he's not any good, but it just goes back to our point about systems make these players. Alex Smith, at this point last year, top 5 fantasy quarterback. This year, irrelevant with the Redskins. And Jay Gruden's not even a bad coordinator, but man, he's fallen off. I looked up at the game. The Redskins are winning by 2 scores, and Alex Smith had 116 yards passing in the first half. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This guy, oh, man. Good thing I didn't, you don't have to really punt quarterback to that low with all the depth we have. But, man, I would – if I had Alex Smith as my starting quarterback, I would be scared. My quarterback moving up, though, is Trubisky. We've now seen back-to-back, multi-touchdown games. I like how he's not really zoning in on any one particular receiver. He's spreading it around, which is good. I don't know if that's, the play calling or if he's actually reading defenses and figuring out who the optimal receiver is. But I got to have Trubisky moving up because, even though he came off a bye road game against the Dolphins, he played well because he still hasn't even had 16 starts yet as a quarterback. So Trubisky moving up.
I like it. I like his athleticism.
And the coordinator, somewhat. Oh, I will get into that, but just not today. Any running backs, Will? Moving up, moving down.
Somebody that's been unbelievable, but Melvin Gordon, I think, is 100% put himself in the Todd Gurley.
Bell, Johnson.
Yeah, he's in that class.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can't be. He's got 8 touchdowns this season. He is him and Rivers is that offense when the chart. By the way, I'm going to talk about more later, but the Chargers are 4-2, and
only losses are to undefeated. We're undefeated teams.
To the Rams and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just they're a pretty good football team, but I love what Melvin Gordon's doing. He's an electric player. Moving down is because what you mentioned about Derek Carr in Oakland, but Marshawn Lynch. If Carr can't stretch the field vertically, they can stack the box, and Marshawn becomes more and more irrelevant.
And the week before this, their right tackle, formerly the left tackle, Donald Penn, went down for the year on IR. So if you're missing one of your bookends, it's real hard to run the football.
It's going to be really difficult. So I've got Marshawn moving down.
Yes. A couple groups of guys I have moving down. Colts running backs and Seattle running backs moving down. There's just way too many people. We thought it was Chris Carson and Mike Davis. Well, Rashad Penny gets a little action for no reason at all. I'm extra salty about this because Carson was in my DFS lineup, and he scored a touchdown. Then that got taken off by a false start. He never got another shot at the end zone. It was brutal. And Russell Wilson came alive, throwing touchdown passes to guys who aren't named Doug Baldwin. Thanks, because I only have Doug Baldwin.
Russell Wilson, available in one of my fantasy leagues I saw.
I'm not touching him.
I'm not either.
I'm fine with luck.
But I just think that's crazy.
It is pretty. It's nuts. It's just we always talk about it. It's what systems will do from year to year. Players who have this, assumed floor of production, it changes. And then, Marlon Mack just needs to go away, especially after that ridiculous. He can't even catch a screen pass. That infuriated me. But moving up, and he's going to be part of my takeaway here in a second, Saquon Barkley. I'm going to just leave it at that because my number 4 takeaway is all about Barkley and his future in the NFL. I'll kick off the wide receivers because it's simple. Sure. You brought him up already as Amari Cooper as a potential trade target. But all the Chargers wide receivers are moving down except for Keenan Allen. There's just too much variance from week to week. Mike Williams looked like for 2 weeks he was the guy. And then he's been silent. And now Tyrell Williams goes off this weekend. This thing is really the Melvin Gordon show. And Keenan Allen suffered from it too. So I'm down on every Chargers receiver. I mean, I'm not worried about Keenan Allen, but I'm not rostering Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams, none of those guys. So I'm down on the Chargers receivers. And then Adam Thielen. I think it's time we have to start talking about Thielen as a top 10 wide receiver because wide receivers.
So we have to start talking about him as a top 5 wide receiver?
I mean, we can now. Who you got? I mean, if we're doing 5, do we think he's 5th?
Antonio Brown.
Julio,
yeah. AJ Green.
He's better than Odell right now, but he has better core. I mean, it's so dependent on system, but like.
But like if you're talking about fantasy, I'd take Adam Thielen over Odell right now. For sure.
Everybody would. What about over Hopkins? I think it's close.
It's close, but I'd say probably no, just because you've got the. Actually, I'd say yes right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about Tyreek? Now his swings are super high. Thielen's been.
I'd rather have Thielen.
I would too, because the consistency is crazy. I mean, it felt good as a Hill owner seeing the 32 go up on Sunday. But I mean, I think he's been single digit the last 2 weeks, so that's just kind of what you get.
I know he scored 3 touchdowns, but like he got a lot of those points late too. Tyreek gets some points late.
He sure does, and so you can call him garbage time or whatever. But the great thing about him is he needs the most minimal touches in the NFL to make value on any given weekend. But wide receivers for you moving up or moving down, Will?
I've got Woods moving up with the Cup injury.
How did he come back in the game? That looked brutal.
I don't really know. But, I mean, it seems like something that could definitely continue to nag. And Robert Woods had a big week anyway. Had 100 yards receiving, a bunch of targets. So I do like Robert Woods. I don't know how I couldn't mention Cole Beasley. He got 11 targets against the Jags, 2 touchdowns. Hearns was the next closest. He only got 5 targets, and he had no catches. And the next guy after that
Gallup,
had 2 targets.
Swaim or Gallup?
It was like 3 guys had 2.
Oh, I got you.
But, like, I mean, nobody else is even getting targets. So
that's a wasteland.
It is. But I got nobody moving down in particular.
Gotcha. I mean, besides Amari Cooper.
Cooper.
Tight ends. Pittsburgh tight ends have to be going up. I've never seen Ben target the tight ends so much. Just the position in general. Jesse James, Vance McDonald, then Xavier Grimble even threw his hat in there. It's just insane, and I'm okay with it because the tight end has been an awful position to figure out this year. Austin Hooper has to be moving up, especially with some of the injuries to Sanu and Ridley. But the last 2 weeks, he's been very productive, and it looks like he's sort of hit his stride with Matt Ryan and this offense. And then moving down, I have Kelsey. Because just for a guy that you had to pay for like that, now there's no more floor. You know, he's not really guaranteed anything because Mahomes spreads the ball around so much. The game plan can differ so dramatically from game to game. But, you know, I have a feeling that whenever Kareem Hunt plays well, Kelsey's going to suffer because there's a lot of those targets are similar in terms of how quickly they're leaving Mahomes' hands and where they're occurring on the field. So it's not by much, but if you drafted Travis Kelce, you've got to be pissed.
I'm with you on that. And tight ends this year is really difficult, but I'm with you on Pittsburgh tight ends. I've got Vance McDonald listed as moving up. He got more targets than Antonio Brown this week, which who would have thought that? Vance McDonald gets more targets than Antonio Brown in a game.
The Bengals do a good job against Brown, though. That's why we never talked about him for a reason.
No, Antonio Brown got 5 targets, and he had 100 yards receiving still, but and they did a good job against them for the most part in that game.
Yeah, I mean, one play just broke them. Anyone moving down?
Nope.
All right. Hey, I think that's the first time in 3 weeks I've gone through that and not messed up who do you have moving up? Well, I already talked about that. See, Will? I'm listening.
You're listening.
I'm listening. I'm getting better at this.
Big time.
So before we transition, it's not code for anything. Get to your number 4 and your number 3 takeaways from week 6.
Number 4 to me is I really love the parity in the NFL right now. There's absolutely no gimme games. I love it as a spectator, not so much as a fantasy football player because I want to kind of know what the outcome's going to be before we go into the game. But as a spectator, it's great. No way did I think the Bears would lose to Miami. I thought that was not even a possibility.
On the radar.
And they did. And, there's just been so many games this year, like Buffalo winning games they shouldn't win. And I love it. There's no gimme games right now, which is great. Number 3 for me, speaking of the Bears are going away 2 games this season, and they should be 5-0.
Oh, it's so frustrating as somebody who invested heavily in the Bears to hear that. But you're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Think about that for a second, though. If the Bears are 5-0 right now, and we're talking about them in the same light as KC and the Rams and New England.
Right.
But now they're 3-2 because they gave away 2 games.
Yes, they for sure gave away the Green Bay game. I just don't. I can't. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm saving all of it for Thursday.
Okay.
Because I'm still going to be mad on Thursday. Number 4, I alluded to this guy. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL. What he did on Thursday night against the Eagles with that front seven, specifically that defensive line, and with what ridiculous, personnel he has in front of him, it's really unbelievable. I mean, the guy is as advertised, looks like, just crack him open. He's a Hall of Famer from day one. I mean, could you imagine if Saquon Barkley is in Los Angeles with the Rams system? This would be LaDainian Tomlinson. But he's in New York with Eli Manning. And it's not even that Pat Shurmur's the problem. Eli Manning is the big problem because we saw on run plays, the offensive line is not good. And it doesn't matter anyway. So, oh man, even when Bell comes back or David Johnson regains his footing, Saquon Barkley's the best. And, I feel dumb for doubting him so heavily during the preseason. But I feel like this guy should be number 1 overall next year. Because it doesn't, even if Eli's the quarterback, whoever's the quarterback, it's number 1 overall because it just doesn't matter what the game is like. He's going to get it done.
I agree. It's hard for me to put him over like Melvin Gordon right now, just because I understand that Saquon's a much more talented player, but like they've got what Melvin Gordon does in that offense in L.A. I almost said San Diego, but like it's down to a science right now. Him as a receiver and him as a ball carrier, and I still think they're just going to be a little bit unsure with Saquon because they're so unsure at the quarterback position. Now they'll have a better idea next year, but like they're going into the year with a rookie quarterback. Do I really feel confident that Saquon's going to be?
Or they're going. They're going in with Jameis Winston in their car.
Well, if they had Jameis Winston at quarterback, then I'd say probably.
This team would be sweet.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just not buying 1-1 right now just because there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, of course. Best friend calls one of the 2 nights. I cannot talk at this time. Great. Number 3 takeaways. My goodness, the officiating was especially bad this Sunday. I talked about Tyrell Williams. False start should have nullified one of his 39-yard touchdown catch. The officiating in the Monday night game was awful. San Francisco gets hauled for every holding penalty, defensive holding penalty under the sun. And on the final drive, those Green Bay tackles were just literally tackling their opposing player. And it was disappointing for me this weekend all around watching the officials. Good Lord, it was crazy. It was not good for me.
There's been some bad officiating this season for sure. This weekend was.
But there's bad every year. That's why I just made a point for this weekend. Like this weekend, it really stuck out to me.
How about that? The false start was like noticeably obvious.
It was so obvious that the defensive linemen for Cleveland stopped and were holding their hands out like this dude just went a full second before the ball was snapped, missing the pick play on Antonio Brown. Of course, I know there's that rule where it's within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage.
That was not within 1 yard, though. It's like 5 yards.
And maybe he's within 1 yard, but the dude – I almost said something I shouldn't. The dude blocking was not within 1 yard. He was 2-3 yards up the field, Justin Hunter. If you're going to get away with it, sure, but that was egregious, man. And it could have taken them out of field goal range if it bumps them back like that. So – man, they really messed up that game. But it hasn't been that terrible as a whole. But I made a point to talk about it on this past weekend. Anything you want to add?
No. Nailed it.
Sweet. All right, let's move into our waiver wire look ahead. So I like the rhythm we've been in. Will, this is probably your best contribution to the podcast so far. You said, hey, how about you do the stuff for this week, and I will do more of the down the road multi-week pickups. I said, hey, that's excellent. Like I said, if you just show up and you talk, then it's working for me because I don't expect much out of you. But you really brought it that week, and you've really shaped the format of this podcast.
Thank you.
I'm very happy.
I'm just happy to contribute any way I can. I'm a team player.
Absolutely, but don't get used to the compliments, okay? Well, don't let that go to your head. Before we get into who we like this, we've got to talk about last week because why does this matter if we're not keeping track, if we're not getting better at this? Will, quarterbacks we recommended: Manning, Mariota, Mayfield. All of them sucked. Every single one of them. And as far as teams on bye, Drew Brees, Stafford, so people had to make adjustments. So man, if you took our recommendation and got one of those guys, I am sorry. The running back, Smallwood, Clement, it's not really one I counted because it was just super obvious. You had to figure out which one. I recommended Smallwood. I do think while Clement got the touchdown, Smallwood, excuse me, no, that's not his nickname. That's his actual last name, Smallwood. I think that, he got a little bit more workload in terms of run and pass split.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying that off the top of my head because I remember watching a lot of that game. But, you had to pick up one of them. Capri Bibbs was atrocious. It was a real bad call by me. There's a reason he's 0% owned. And then Ronald Jones. I thought this could be the Ronald Jones week where they come out of the bye and get their rookie going. Nope, Peyton Barber's a thing again.
Yeah, and
it's more to do with Atlanta than
anything.
A legitimate thing, apparently. Wide receivers, Christian Kirk paid off. Paul Richardson paid off. Got the double-digit points, even in half points. Antonio Callaway, no, not at all. And Cortland Sutton, not this week. Man, the tight end really pissed me off the most because when O.J. Howard was active, I had to pivot off of Brait because I'm like, it pained me because I had to change a lot of my lineup. But I went from Brait up to C.J. Uzomah, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Should have gone up to this guy we recommended, the Austin Hooper. Crushed it. I picked once the O.J. Howard thing was active, I picked up Hooper everywhere.
How about that, though? O.J. Howard's active, and Brait still managed to catch one ball for a touchdown.
Partially torn meniscus. The dude came back in 2 weeks. Oh, no, maybe not meniscus. It might have even been MCL. He had a partial tear of a muscle, came back in 2 weeks. I don't even know how that's possible, and he looked good.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. Cameron Brait, he got a touchdown, but I'm not counting that as a win. Only catch of the day. So,
yeah.
And then Nick Vannett, I'm not counting either because he was healthy. He was a scratch. He was inactive before the game, so you had plenty of time to pick it up. And that was, not what he was trending towards during the Thursday. And then the defense we recommended, the Jets, got bailed out because Marlon Mack didn't catch a football and they ran it in for a touchdown. They still got a bunch of turnovers, but allowed a ton of points. And you were very happy if you got the 10 points from the Jets instead of the -1 points from the Bears, like me.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, we got there's one defense everybody needs to be picking up, and it's for a reason Will said earlier. But let's get into who we're recommending for this week. 3 quarterbacks this week. Trubisky, multi-touchdown passes in 2 straight games. He's absolutely available, 32% owned. Flacco against the Saints at home. He hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, but we don't know if we're going to get the Saints defense from week 1 or from week 5 against the Redskins. And then Baker Mayfield, 43% owned, so you may not be this lucky at Tampa Bay.
Yep.
The worst pass defense in the NFL. That's the best spot.
That was my guy last week, Baker for sure. This is a great week.
And you said for this week too.
Yes, for this week because they're playing against that defense. Quarterbacks just kill that defense. That would be my target if he's out there. My only concern about Flacco, I almost gave you Flacco for the next week too.
Right.
My only concern with him is he's trending down.
Last 2 weeks have not been good.
Started the season really well and kind of trending down. Not saying he won't turn it around because he's at least showed the ability that he can do it this year. So I do like that. For me, I'm kind of going. It's a guy we talked about a lot, and he's still 60% owned. But if you can get Andy Dalton, if he's available, you just got to get him. He like we said, he gets the Bucs in 2 weeks.
And guess who he gets this weekend? He gets the Chiefs this weekend. I didn't recommend him because he's
60%. Yes,
but in some leagues he's out there. And if you don't know, what if somebody picked him up last week, gets Drew Brees back, and now they're cutting him? Exactly. I don't know what people's leagues look like, and so that's the only reason I left him off. But my God, he gets the Chiefs.
That's the note I just wanted to make because just be on the lookout on the waiver wire. People dropping guys that are on buys. Like I said, Russell Wilson's on buy this week.
Yep.
He's dropped. As bad of a year as he's having, he's actually not having that bad of a year, but not the Russell Wilson we've seen in the past. He's still better than half the league. So just look at who's out there. But I didn't really like anybody else for the next 2 weeks, so that's why I mentioned Dalton because I'm targeting that Bucs defense. So, but still, 60% owned. He's out there in 40% of leagues.
Yes.
If he's there, get him.
Totally agree. Moving on to running back. Devontae Freeman, man. IR? Are you kidding me? That's my dynasty league is done.
Good season.
I am 1 in 5, and Freeman's a huge part of that. I made a trade for Kenny Galladay last week, which I'm excited about. But I have no Devontae Freeman. And dude, I tried to make an offer to the guy who has Ito Smith And he's like, no, not inclined to move him. He wouldn't move Ito Smith for Ted Ginn. Like, and then I was so heated. I went back and looked at his game logs and go, dude, when Freeman was out, you played Ito Smith 0 times. Why are you having him on your? I'm going to play him if you trade him to me. Why won't you do it? He goes, I'm not parting with him, dude. Like, that doesn't matter. I'm like, oh, you're the worst. Just the worst. Give me Ito Smith. I'm going to try to make another move for him again this week because he's going to have a role. He got a touchdown again this weekend. So 14% on Ito Smith. I think that's a real thing. Peyton Barber, 43% owned. We just saw they still have their faith in him. Maybe not against the Browns defense, but if you're really hurting Peyton Barber. And how about this dude? Frank Gore's only owned in 12% of leagues. He gets the Lions. He gets one of the worst run defenses in the NFL.
And he just ran for 100 yards.
And I think he got 15 or more carries. So
it was 15 carries, 100 yards.
Frank Gore, man. I don't know how he's still available. I don't know how I've got him on both leagues at the back end of my roster in case something catastrophic happens and I've got to play him. But I might be able to trade him if he goes off. Running backs for you, Will.
I've got one, and I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But for 2 weeks, Raheem Mostert for San Francisco. Nobody knows who that is, but shared carries with Breda last week against the Cardinals. Against Green Bay.
Pack, yeah.
He gets the Cardinals in 2 weeks, which is why I'm mentioning him. But he looked good, had really good production. He had 12 carries, 80 yards, something like that.
Raheem Mostert. All my Alfred Morris shares dick.
0.
Yeah.
It was a legitimate timeshare. Like, they split carries basically down the middle between Breda and
Do you think
Mostert.
that's because he was questionable or because Shanahan wants to do that? And you don't have to have an answer. That's just a question for me, your opinion.
I would lean towards it's because he was questionable and Breda was banged up and they were trying to limit carries. But, I mean, he showed he can be productive, which makes me think he'll continue to get carries.
Yeah.
So, you never know. Like, Breda keeps being banged up, and maybe he's inactive a day, and then you start Mostert. Like, San Francisco's offense legitimately looks good right now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Coaching matters. One team has Mike McCarthy. One team has Kyle Shanahan.
Yes.
One team has the infinitely better quarterback and is trailing in the fourth quarter. Had to take the lead on the last drive of the game.
Put Kyle Shanahan with Green Bay. Oh my God.
We saw Matt Ryan, MVP.
Yep.
38 touchdowns, 7 picks. I mean, yeah. Oh my goodness. Kyle Shanahan to Green Bay. Kyle Shanahan to Indy. I do love Frank Wright, but God, Kyle Shanahan with it. I'm not going to get into it. But let's look at this. Receivers. Chester Rogers, man. 3 straight weeks with 10-plus targets. He bailed me out. I had him in DFS. He bailed me out with that touchdown in the fourth quarter. One of the lone bright spots on my roster. 13% owned. He's out there. Now, maybe that will change when T.Y.'s back. If anything, I say, sure, the volume might change, but the efficiency of those targets is going to be better because he's not going to be their number one anymore. And Ebron is still playing well. Marquise Goodwin, 43% owned. I cut him in one of my redraft leagues, picking his ass back up. And then the guy we talked about, Cole Beasley, I'm going to put his name out there because he's 8% owned. And if you're really hurting, go for it. But I'm not touching Cole Beasley.
No, I want
to pick him. That laugh is I haven't heard that laugh on the podcast before.
It's because I think to myself, I hate Cole Beasley. Like, he's so irrelevant. He's Danny Amendola,
he's not as good as Danny.
He's not as good as Danny. You're right, but he's another Texas Tech wide receiver.
Yeah,
they're all the same.
I know what that means. I know what that's code for.
So we mentioned him last week, but Christian Kirk for me looks like Rosen's favorite target. Again, they get San Francisco in 2 weeks. He's 13% owned. I mean, he's the guy there. If Rosen continues to gain a little bit of confidence and Fitz is doing nothing, Kirk's going to continue to get the most targets on that team. So
he's getting the best kind of targets too, deep targets.
He is. And then this is a tough matchup in 2 weeks because they get Philly, but the Jags, if Fournette continues to be banged up, they're a pass-first team. So D.D. Westbrook is still an option. He's 37% owned. I hate that receiving core, but like if you're really in need of a flex or a wide receiver, you're banged up on the receiving core, they're a pass-first team with Fournette out. So it's just something to consider. just because there's not a whole lot out there on the waiver wire.
I get it. I mean, it gets brutal. And we always have to have this reminder. Pay attention who your league mates drop. Now, this kind of applied last week because there are a lot of good fantasy assets, but, I mean, if some I don't want to say that word, but, I mean, if somebody dropped a player like Kenny Golladay or like Marvin Jones on the bye and they're done with them, clearly that's the most important guy to go get. Yes. So pay attention. You can go to your league and say, you can look at moves in total and you can see every single move that's been made. And you can look at, oh, this guy's on there because he's probably buried on the rankings because he's now got a week less production than most players. So always be mindful of who your opponents are dropping. Only one tight end to pick up, CJ Uzomah. Tyler Kroft now has a broken foot. You're going to get the starting tight end, and I mean, he looked pretty good. Dalton's not afraid to go to him, so Uzomah 15%. If you are scrambling at tight end or you're like a Jimmy Graham owner or something, like, there you go. CJ Uzomah.
You know where CJ Uzomah went to school?
I don't.
Auburn.
Oh, my God. You and your just Auburn.
It's one player a week, though. You mentioned an Auburn guy. Got to let you know. Hey, he went to Auburn.
God.
Auburn tight end. There you go.
Yes, extremely relevant analysis to the podcast.
I'm also only going to mention one, and I'm pivoting from back to O.J. Howard at 30. He's 36% owned.
He's got a partially torn muscle.
But he's productive. That's all that matters.
He didn't go to Auburn. He went to the right Alabama school.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He's a good player. So, I mean, here's the thing. Jameis and Tampa Bay Bucks offense. Jameis spreads the
tight
football.
Ends, he loves tight ends and Mike Evans. That's it.
He'll go everywhere with the ball. So he likes the big body guys, including Godwin, by the way.
He likes big bodied men, Will?
He likes big bodied men. So, but
your words, not mine.
I like O.J. Howard, 36% owned.
Yeah, you really like O.J. Howard. If Winston likes him that much, you'd like him that much. Defense. 2 defenses. The number one defense you got. Someone is going to play this team, and they're going to smash because the Colts. Will, do you want to make the announcement again? Who are the Colts facing this weekend?
I can't remember.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Carolyn. Carolyn, Will's girlfriend, is in town, so she's joining us on the podcast. Carolyn, do you know who?
Fuck no. Oh.
It's okay. I won't edit that out. I mean, I marked this as non-explicit, but iTunes doesn't listen to this. We barely have a following. I know iTunes is not listening to this. Be like, oh, they cursed it. They didn't mark it as explicit this week, so we got to drop them. No, not happening. Will said that the Colts get the Nathan Peterman-led Bills.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I've even got it in one of my predictions.
Okay,
later.
Good. It's so straightforward. Bills 7% owned. Guaranteed you can go pick them up. That's what I'm going to do. I might drop Chicago to do it if I can't move Chicago as a throw-in on some kind of deal. I might just go stream because they got New England. And I'm not holding them again. I held them through the bye. I'm going to try to have them as a throw-in on something. But I want the Colts defense so bad because I need to win. I need to win in some of these leagues. And that's the way to get it. Other defenses, the Dolphins, 29% owned. They're the third-ranked fantasy defense because for some reason they just keep scoring touchdowns. So Dolphins, 29%. Colts are the preferred one at 7%. If you pay attention, you can get them.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. What do you got?
I've got a little outside the box here, but in 2 weeks, I've got Washington's defense against the Giants.
Oh, nice.
Washington's only had one game with less than 7 fantasy points, so they're kind of a consistent defense that's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
So if you got a good defense that's on bye that week,
they get the Giants.
You go Washington against the Giants. So basically all they're going to have to do is find a way to shut down Saquon, but they've done a decent job against the run this season.
It'll be a good measuring stick this weekend. If they bottle up Ezekiel Elliott, we need to play Redskins everywhere when they play the Giants.
Yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head if that's at home or away?
It is. I believe it's at home.
Okay, sweet. That's always good. Home defense is always good. I love that. I loved Washington week 1. Paid off. Haven't liked them since, but they're quietly consistent.
Really, their only game that their defense hasn't played okay in was New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people struggle with New Orleans, and it was in New Orleans.
Exactly. On Monday Night Football with, Breeze having that historic night. Yeah. So it's an outlier.
For sure.
All right. Before we move into predictions, our number 2 takeaway of Week 6. Yours, Will?
Okay. I posed this a little bit earlier, but this is a serious question. Are the Chargers the 3rd best team in the AFC? I think they are a better team than Jacksonville is right now.
I think they're a better team than Pittsburgh right now.
I agree. I think they're better than
I
everybody
think
in
they're
the
close.
AFC North.
Pittsburgh is really the one where it's close. I guess we can throw the Bengals in.
See, I don't think Pittsburgh can stop the Chargers. And I'm not saying the Chargers can for sure stop Pittsburgh, but I think they've got a better shot. I really like what the Chargers have kind of gone under the radar, and because they had those 2 early losses, but it was the Rams and the Chiefs, 2 of the best teams in the NFL.
What only hurts the Chargers that they don't, and you're right, I think that they're absolutely being overlooked as one of the better teams in the league. They don't have a home field advantage. And I know that seems silly, but they don't have a home field. They just don't. When they played the Raiders, it's like when they played them, it was a Raider crowd. Yeah. And I mean, that sucks. And I don't know what kind of effect that has mentally on a team throughout an entire season, but if they get, by some miracle, get to host a playoff game, it's almost meaningless. Yeah. They may as well be on the road. But I do really like the Chargers, especially if Gordon can stay healthy. They get Bosa back. This defense is going to be legit when Bosa comes back. So I agree. They're being overlooked for sure.
Did you see, just another note, sorry,
Nick Bosa?
Quick. You see he's leaving Ohio State to just focus on rehab for the NFL.
Okay, so I don't know if there's more to this, but you think Ohio State was like pressuring him to come back, and he's like, I don't feel it, so I'm out.
I don't know.
Because we haven't seen this in recent memory. Not a player of his caliber. We've seen people sit out bowl games, not sit out seasons.
I think that Ohio State was probably handling his rehab, and his advisor was telling him that we'll front the money for you to go work with somebody else that's more established so you can get ready for the
And now if he's not playing, he can go get an agent. An agent can do that.
Exactly.
Agents do spot, like, they do all that stuff. So, I mean, I don't particularly care. You have a better opinion than I do because I'm not a college football guy at all. Anything that makes Ohio State worse, I'm good with.
I mean, I think, honestly, at this point, Ohio State plays at such a high level, I don't think they're going to have any hard feelings towards that. Like, say they go on to win the national championship, I think they'll give them a ring. Like, I don't think so. I think they will.
I don't know if Urban Meyer's got that kind of a heart. I mean, we've talked about
he doesn't have a heart.
Yeah, I'm about to say your opinion on Urban Meyer is not a mystery. You're not
trash.
You're not a fan of Mr. Meyer, but he leads into my number 2 takeaway. As much as you don't like him, he knows how to coach offense, man. And it seems like this is a takeaway or a point to make every week, but coaching is everything in the NFL. We just saw this on Monday Night Football. The Kyle Shanahan-led Niners, who are almost worse everywhere. I would say there are a couple spots on defense where they're better than the Packers, but they were in control of that game. And with freaking C.J. Beathard, they were in a position to win the damn thing in Green Bay. And on the other hand, Mike McCarthy holding his team back. I mean, Witten said out loud, he said this out loud, Will. Mike McCarthy is one of those coaches that are ahead of the curve. What football has he been watching? Terry Bradshaw, I mean, I don't know how recent this is, but there were clips of him I heard somebody was ragging him. He goes, you might just want to move on from Rodgers. McCarthy is not, the kind of coach that you let go. Do they even care about what they say? Or are they just like hot take machines? Because that is absurd.
It's absolutely absurd. Mike McCarthy is the most average football coach there is. I think he's irrelevant.
I mean, this is what happens when you win a Super Bowl, and especially in a town like that where they just brag about how they don't have an owner. If they had an owner, McCarthy would be gone by now and the Packers would be better. They do realize that if you had an owner, one entity holding everyone accountable, they would probably have another Super Bowl. But you don't. You have Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy has been terrible.
You ready for this hot take? I'm going to give a hot take. Josh McDaniels to Green Bay.
As the head coach?
Yes.
I'm not against it. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he can leave. I don't think they would give it to him because of what he did to the Colts, because they don't want to be left high and dry like that with Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers might have the biggest bitch fit you've ever seen if McDaniel shows up and then leaves 2 days into the job.
True.
So I wouldn't hate it, though. I would not hate it.
Like, if that's who I would be targeting if I was them. Who else would, like...
I don't know.
I don't
know. I don't even know candidates in college. I have zero idea. But coaching is everything. And I will get into it with the Bears game. Coaching lost that game, not the players on the field, not a Jordan Howard fumble or a Mitch Trubisky interception. The coaches lost that game for the Bears. Let's get into our final segment, though. Man, these last 2 podcasts, we've been just super efficient. super efficient. We've been just flying through this stuff. Let's get to our predictions. Will, your positive and your negative prediction for the NFL this week.
So my positive prediction, and this might just be wishful thinking, but I'm just going to go with it. Panthers and Eagles will be one of the best football games of the year between Cam and Carson Wentz. I think it'll be unbelievably competitive. It's just a gut feeling. And when I say one of the best football games of the year, I don't mean like huge offense going both sides and putting up major points. I mean like just a great test, both sides, both quarterbacks going head-to-head, trying to will their teams to a victory. Both these teams are contenders. I really like what this game's kind of shaping up to be. It's going to be tough for the Panthers to win in Philly, but
I feel like there was a Thursday night game last year. I think it was these two teams on Thursday night. They lit it up. Both Cam and Wentz did. So it certainly has the potential to be a great game.
Cam's just got like a little flair for the dramatic, and Wentz is,
I mean, clearly Auburn guy. He's got a flair for the
Auburn
dramatic.
guy.
Yeah.
And Wentz is heating up. So I think I'm happy these teams are matched up against each other. I think it's going to be a really good football game.
Nice. What about your negative prediction?
You're not going to like this one.
All right.
Andrew Luck will struggle against the Bills' defense.
Oh, God.
The Bills' defense has done that to teams.
The Bills'
this
defense
year.
has done that. It's really been incredible how they've kept their team in ball games, with the exception of Week 1, when the whole team knew they had no shot against Nate Peterman.
And it could be the same situation this week.
Could be in the same situation. I mean,
or they could have a little bit of confidence because they know their defense is okay.
You know what? It wouldn't shock me that much. Like, I could see him having a very similar stat line as did against the Jets. 4 touchdowns, but 3 picks, mistakes.
Something like that.
So it wouldn't shock me. But, I mean, do you think he's not even getting, like, our standard 250 and 2?
No, I think he could
Too much volume.
I think 250 and 2 is, like, a no-brainer. Like, he'll get that, but he'll throw picks and maybe fumble.
Yeah, all right. You know what? I can see that. I'm not super upset about it because it's a real prediction. And despite what I project on the podcast, I don't lose my mind every time Andrew Luck gets criticized.
I've been on the other side of the Andrew Luck thing recently. I've been starting to praise him a little bit, and this isn't. It's odd.
I don't even know how to host when you're talking positive about Andrew Luck.
I hope he doesn't struggle because I've got Ty. I hope Ty plays, and
but you also hope that that they keep losing out so that you win the bet with me.
That's true. I do hope that.
If
they lose to the Bills, it'd just be icing on the cake.
I did not enjoy that text on Sunday.
1-5.
There's a reason why I didn't respond to the maybe early, but Cowboys versus Jags with the eyeball emoji. There's a reason I didn't respond to that one. I was so heated about 1-5, dude. Gonna be hard to make that prediction. Anyways, my positive prediction, and I was right about this last week. The Falcons get right, score 30 points and cover the spread against the Bucs. I'll roll it back out. Baker Mayfield, rookie quarterback on the road, gets right against the Buccaneers.
I love it.
And it's going to be odd because they are such a heavy run team, and the Bucs are great against the run because they're so horrible against the pass. So I think we'll get a better gauge of how bad the Bucs are and what kind of offense Cleveland is. But Mayfield gets right. I mean, he's a good player. I'm happy they drafted him number 1. He just has the right mindset for that kind of team. You have to be wired a little bit differently to be the quarterback of the Browns and take them out of this ridiculous chaos they've been in. And my number 2, Will, I was down on Cincinnati last weekend. My number 2 prediction is Kansas City drops a second game in a row. At home,
I almost said
Sunday Night Football again. The Bengals knew they had that game against the Steelers. Andy Dalton is much better on the road. It's going to be an awesome game for fantasy with the shootout. I think the Bengals get it done in Kansas City.
I don't hate that prediction.
You said you were close to it?
I looked at that game and I was like, man, I think the Bengals could beat them.
They have the offensive capability to keep pace, but
absolutely.
Defensively, I think they might be able to apply pressure to them.
I agree. That's going to be a really good game. I
kind
of hope the Bengals beat them.
God, and that one's not on the main slate either.
Yeah.
Oh. It's what it is. What it is. Before we wrap this thing up, we got to finish our top 5. Will, before you get to your number 1 takeaway of Week 6, go through the rest of your previous ones. I don't know why I didn't have the right. I couldn't speak right there, but
it's okay.
Go ahead for the rest of your takeaways.
Number 5 for me, Oakland is a mess. You were completely right about Derek Carr. Number 4, I love the parity in the NFL right now. every game. You don't know what's going to happen. Number 3, the Bears gave away 2 games, should be 5-0. And I would be really, really rooting for them to continue that streak if that were the case. But they haven't.
Right.
Number 2, are the Chargers the third best team in the AFC at 4-2 with losses to only the Chiefs and the Rams? And my number 1, I said it last week, but yes, the Steelers are back in business. Now they're going into the bye. They feel good. 3-2.
They got the division win.
3-2-1. Bye week. Le'Veon's coming back.
We'll see. Still hasn't reported yet.
He hasn't reported, but he's going to. He can't not.
By the way, little stat for you. Last year, Le'Veon Bell had his career high in rushing touchdowns for a season. Do you know what that number was? If you had to guess.
10.
9. James Conner
has
through 7 games.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. James Conner's played unbelievable.
He's played really well.
James Conner's going to continue to get touches. I really
and that's
believe
really
that.
That's really going to be the shitty thing for
It
Bell
is.
owners. It's not as if Bell's going to get the Conner role now. Like they're going to split carries, and I'm not for that. Like I'm not for that. That's going to be a headache unless you can play both of them.
To play both of them,
we're going to have to see. We're just going to have to wait and see. As a Bell owner, when he comes back, I mean, I have Bell, but it's not in a league that I particularly care. It's an 8-team league, so I'm not worried about that. As a Bell owner in a league that matters, when he comes back, Conner or Bell's getting the start. I mean, it will clearly depend on the information that is reported throughout the week. But for you, what are you making on that decision?
It honestly depends on who else I've got on my roster, their matchups, because I might start neither.
Okay.
That first week.
Which I think it might be the best decision.
Just wait and see how it plays out, because I'd be scared to see like both of them got 12 carries, which I don't even think they both get. Both of them got 10 carries for 45 yards.
Yeah. Or like one guy, like they don't announce who gets the goal line. One guy gets all the between the 20s work, and the other guy gets like the money touches, gets the touchdowns. Like that would be super frustrating. I think that might be the best way to play it until you have more information on the subject.
We'll see what like the reports say going into that week. I'd have a hard time keeping Le'Veon Bell out of the lineup if he's active and playing.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see.
It's fair. My takeaways from week 6. Number 5, the pay lines in DFS are up, and they're going to stay there because scoring is up. Now we're going to need to go 2.5x per position, not just 2x. Number 4, Saquon Barkley's the best running back in the NFL. Number 3, the officiating this Sunday was the worst it's been all season. Number 2, coaching is everything. I say it every week, and every week I have 3 or 4 different examples of why it's always a takeaway and why it is almost the most important thing about your football team, who your coach is. And then number 1 is, it's another DFS takeaway, Will. I'm going known commodities only. And what does that mean? That means, I'm not going to get cute and try to predict what people are going to do or even project what people should be doing, even if the analysis is right. Known commodities only, which is why I went through that lineup earlier. You know what I've got? I've got 2 ridiculously good running backs. I've got a known commodity, which is quarterbacks against the Bucs are fantastic. So I've got the quarterback facing the Bucs. I've got the tight end facing the Bucs, and I've got all of these spots in matchups that are just straightforward and idiotic because I think I'm getting too cute with cash games, and I'm going to make a huge effort just to really challenge myself, just to play known commodities. So I'm probably going to have to get rid of Marquise Goodwin and find someone else. Probably I'll have to pay up for Chester Rogers. How about that? Pay up for Chester Rogers.
That's unbelievable.
That's something I never thought I would say. Anything you want to add before we close this thing down?
I really like that. Known commodities. That's big time.
Known commodities only, especially in DFS where you pick every player you want every weekend. But that's going to wrap things up for our seasonal episode of Week 7. We'll be back on Thursday to record. DFS episode will drop Friday. We'll look at the main slate on FanDuel for Week 7. We will see you then.